Okay, so this is day 2 of Mishlei 24, 15, and 16. Al terov Rasha linave Tzadik, al tishadid rivtso. You, Russia, don't ambush the home of the Tzadik, don't plunder his dwelling place or his crouching place, whatever you want to say. Ki sheva yipol Tzadik v'kam, u'rashayim yikashlu b'ra'a. For 7 times a Tzadik falls and he gets up, but the Rashayim will stumble in, through, on badness, however you want to translate that. Okay, so and Sadion translated it as do not lay ambush to the abode of the Tzadik because you are making him a Rasha, and do not plunder his place because the Tzadik, even if he falls many times, he will get up, but the wicked will stumble in badness. Okay, so our questions were, what is the scenario here? What does ambush mean? What is the meaning of neve and revetz? I don't know exactly what the singular is. Why is the Rasha lurking in ambush? Like, what's his goal? Why specifically for the Tzadik, and also what is he trying to gain? Okay, question 2, why are we addressing the Rasha at all, right? Plain shot is it's talking to the Rasha. So is he going to care or listen? And Mishlei typically doesn't address the Rasha, which we said, by the way, that there are really 3 approaches to this. Either Mishlei is addressing the Rasha and we need to explain why, or Mishlei is addressing the son who is prone to becoming a Rasha and kind of like heading him off at the pass. Oh, actually, we have 4 approaches. Or Mishlei is addressing someone else and calling him a Rasha, or Mishlei is addressing the internal Rasha, the Rasha inside of us, which is the Yetzer Hara. Okay, 3, what are the 2 commands to the Rasha of the don't ambush and don't plunder? 4, what argument is being made in 15 for the case in 16, meaning specifically the Rasha wants, when you plunder someone, you want their money, right? And that's also a plain shot of the ambush. Why should he care if the Tzadik gets up again? 5, what does it mean for the Tzadik to fall and get up? What allows him to do this? 6, what does it mean for the Rasha to stumble in badness? And also like, does it mean something bad happens to him and it causes him to stumble? Does it mean that he stumbles in his own, like because he does badness, the badness comes back to get him? Does it mean that his badness does not come to fruition, like he falters in it? 7, what, if anything, does this pasuk have to say about the Rasha plundering a non-Tzadik, right? This is only talking about the Tzadik. So what about the other, the in-between cases? And then 8, who is the audience? I guess this is really, if it's an actual Rasha, see question 2. If not, who is it? Why is he being addressed as a Rasha? I also want to point out, by the way, which we didn't notice yesterday, in the psukim, this is, even though this is seemingly part of the advice to the son, this is the beginning of a new parsha in Mishlei, which is very rare. You don't usually see parsha breaks in Mishlei. Oh, there's another one. Okay, I guess maybe here you do, but like from chapters 10, I think we counted in 10 through like, I don't know, the middle of the, like for many prophets, they're not paragraph breaks, but apparently here there are. You have something new? You have something to add to the questions?
I actually have more questions.
Okay, more questions, yeah.
Yeah. Another question that I thought of was like for the first pasuk, what's the alternative? Meaning like, okay, fine. You know he's a Rasha. Let's assume you know he's a Rasha. And you're telling him don't ambush the home of the Tzadik. Are you suggesting there's an alternative, like plunder someone else's home?
Right. So
like, I know it's like Michelle's not conveying
I'll attack that.
Plunder other people's homes, but like
so by telling him not to plunder the Tzadik, are you implying it's okay for him to plunder others?
Which leads me to an answer for like why is he talking to the Rasha?
Yeah.
I don't know if
an answer. Okay, yeah. So let's we'll review our approaches from yesterday. So we had 2 basic approaches, which we did not flesh out entirely. One approach is taking it literally and saying that he is trying to plunder the Tzadik, not in order to get his stuff, because then it wouldn't really matter Tzadik or non-Tzadik, and also wouldn't matter that the Tzadik gets up, but he's trying to destroy the Tzadik. And so the ambush could be destroying him, like in terms of his person, which he's going to do in his home, or it could be, destroying his dwelling place, could be like destroying like the basis of his security. And that's why it matters to him that the Tzadik is going to get up again. And I think the easiest way to read Yikashlu Bara'a, not the easiest way. The best deterrent would be if the Rasha is going to be destroyed himself, right? And someone mentioned yesterday that is a way that Mishlei can talk to the Rasha, which is that if you succeed in showing him that he'll get consequences. Sometimes that would be enough to stop the Russia, although usually tochacha does not work. That was what I remember Rabbeinu Yonah saying. So I don't know if this is actually going to work for him. And then the less strong read, I guess, is that he will stumble in his attempt, meaning that he won't succeed in bringing down the Russia. So that was one approach we took. The other approach we took is that this is talking to the internal Russia, which is the Yetzer Hara, and the Tzadik would be the Yetzer HaTov. And we mentioned that there is an allusion to this in the idea of ambushing and revets, which is like in the Lashon of Breshis in Hashem's message to Cain, is lepesa chatas rovets, that the Yetzer Hara is crouching, waiting to pounce. And then in that case, Sheva Yipol Tzadik V'Kam would be that the Yetzer HaTov has a certain resilience, and the Yetzer Hara is not going to be able to defeat him. But then the question there is that really true? Like, seems like a lot of people get defeated by the Yetzer Hara. So those are the two approaches we outlined. And then we looked at the Mefarshim, which did not really provide us with so much help. I mean, the Meiri nodded to our reading in terms of his derech nigleh. Metzus David just said, I just want to read him again. I don't want to read everyone again. Ata Rasha bir osra ki mata yad hatzadik al terov al madurov al tigzol makom rivtzo b'chush v'chal kasher hecha linpo lo yosif lakum. So when when you see the tzaddik's hand declining, do not ambush his dwelling place to steal the place where he lives, thinking that once he begins to fall, then he's not going to get up again. Because in reality, the tzaddik, even though he falls many times, he's going to get up. But the Russia is going to fall and not get up. One instance is going to be enough to take him down. Okay, yeah, Ariel.
Yeah. So I just want to preface that I'm only saying this because I feel like it's worth just to throw everything out there, but I don't necessarily.
Okay. Fair enough. Yeah. Okay. Noted.
So assuming you say that it is talking to the Russia.
Yeah.
Right. That's obviously the framework. So now the question is, well, what's the alternative, right?
Okay.
So obviously, Mishlei is not condoning. Plunder someone else's house, because
right.
It would be a little odd for Mishlei. Yeah.
Right.
But maybe it's saying that, look, like, maybe Mishlei does want to protect like the world of a tzaddik, right? And you're also talking within the Russia's framework. You're not really condoning anything, but you're talking like, look, like this is a tzaddik, this is just who he is. Like, either you get it or you don't, but if you do get it, like, it's not worth your time, with your other objectives in the world to attack a tzaddik, because a tzaddik, you're just gonna fail. If you want to do something else wicked, like, go somewhere else.
Yeah.
But so that's the line that.
Okay, I hear what you're saying, and I hear why you're reluctant to say it. Yeah. I want to share something from last night's shiur. So Isaac gave an interpretation on today's pasuk, which we ended up encountering in last night's Mishlei pasuk, which I just want to recap really quickly. Last night we did 12:12, which is Chamad Rasha Mitzod Ra'im V'Shorsh Tzadikim Yitain. Okay, so there are a lot of translations here, but we said the Russia covets the fortress of the evildoers, but the root of tzadikim will give fruit. Okay, and we saw that Rabbeinu Yonah says that Rabbeinu Yonah's idea is that the Russia is going to want. So the Russia wants power and dominance and self-glorification, and he's going to get that. One of the ways he gets that is through wealth, and the easiest way to get that is through wealth that is stolen and plundered. Okay, so he's going to want to do that himself, and he's going to be envious of the people who have successfully done that. So it's going to lead to this culture of Rishayim that are constantly like plundering people who they can get away with stealing from. Okay, however, what's going to happen? So Rabbeinu Yonah says here with the tzaddik, that so he says the Russia is making a mistake, and it's really the tzaddik who's going to be flourishing. And he says ubir inyan ki hatzadik nosin shorish b'chol yom. The tzaddik's roots spread every day. It's like a tree that the roots are constantly stretching out. And then he quotes from Tehillim, he's like a tzaddik is like a tree planted alongside streams of water. Just as a tree cannot uproot a wind cannot uproot a tree with abundant roots. Kain lo yehedafu hatsaros es hatzadik, v'lo yival'uhu mimakomo. So too, sorrows, misfortunes will not push aside the tzaddik and will not cause him to be totally destroyed from his place. Acharashayim v'harayim, but the evildoers and the wicked people, ein to'eles ve'ezer b'mitzodam. There is no assistance or benefit in their fortress, v'ashram, and in their wealth. Ki ein lahem shorish, they have no roots. V'tzara kala tehedafein, utachale osam kiraga. And one little tzara will totally destroy them instantaneously. I think lo kein harashayim. In that parak of Tehillim, it compares the Rishayim to chaff that's blown away by the wind. Yavru b'tzara kala. So we explained that with Isaac's idea, which is that the tzaddik, first of all, is prioritizing his own objective needs. So he's not going to be like striving to like accumulate stuff. And he's also striving to benefit the community of people around him by taking care of their needs, which does two things. Number one is it ensures the flourishing and success of the community, of the system. And it also teaches people tzedek, right? He does tzedek to them, and then that makes them more prone to doing tzedek to others. So if something bad happens to the tzaddik, then all the people around him will rally to help him because they'll recognize that he's beneficial. They will have learned his values, and their community will have resources in it because it's being sustained by a tzaddik. Okay. The Rasha, though, is exactly the opposite. He has parasitically like depleted all the resources from around him. So there aren't going to be resources left. And then the way he does it generates a lot of hatred and ill will. So no one's going to want to help him. And then the only community he has is other Rishayim. And guess what they're going to do when they see him faltering? They're going to swoop in and just going to plunder him. So I think that was the idea that Isaac said for our pasuk, which is not, I'm not saying that it doesn't work for our pasuk, because we learned last night's pasuk to be talking specifically about like how the Rasha interacts with his community and how the tzaddik interacts with his community, whereas our pasuk doesn't really talk about that. But I think it does give one explanation for why like the tzaddik will get up again is that other people will help him. So that's that was one thing I saw. Okay. A few more things that I saw. Again, we're going to try to work out the literal interpretation before we go to the nistar. So first of all, I did see that the Ibn Ezra, sorry, the fake Ibn Ezra or the real one? Hold on. No, the real Ibn, wait. Yeah, the real Ibn Ezra says that it is talking to the Rasha. Ata miyaser ha-Rasha. Now it is, giving musar to the Rasha. Vatam ata Rasha alterov l'nevei tzadik lahashchiso, and the meaning is, you Rasha, don't ambush the home of the tzaddik to destroy him. Tishadid is because shoded rivto rovit sham. Okay, who kafel batam. Okay, that's the same idea. Batam, and the idea is she'im tachshov lahashchis losucha. If you plan to destroy him, you will not be able to do so. Why? And a lot of Mepharshim say this. Ki hatzadik harbe pa'amim yipol. Tzadik will fall many times. V'kam b'zechuso, he will get up because of his zechus. Ki mikulam yatzinu Hashem. Hashem will save him for all these times. Okay, so he says Hashem will save him. All right. Similarly, I saw that the Hooil Moshe, who is the student of Shadal, says V'chein rivto she'achara him shemos lekuchim inyani hatzon. So he says like alter that these are flock or pasture related words. Behemos mo'ilos v'shalvos shelo tar'ena v'lo tashchena uvim'at histapakna. So he's saying that this is this is not what I wanted to read. Okay, I mean I did want to read this, but not right now. Whatever, we'll read it. So the reason why it's using pasture analogies to describe the tzaddik is because the tzaddik is sustained with the minimal, right? He's saying that uvima'at histapakna, tzaddik can get are content with as long as they have enough. So too in the tzaddik. No, I read someone else though that said that this is talking to the Rasha. Who did I read? We read video yesterday. Was it Rinachmias? Oh no, Rabag. Yeah, so it's not in the packet. That's why. Rabag says, Al terov ata ha'ish harasha, you evil man, Al terov l'nevei hatzadik lahaziklo ulasholulo al tashadid hamakom shatzadik rovacham ki sheva v'zeki im tachshav lasazeh lo yale biadacha. If you try to do this, you're not going to succeed. Ki Tzadik yipol pa'amim rabos, Tzadik will fall many times. V'yakum b'chol pa'am pa'am lihidabek b'hashgachas Hashem yisaled bo, because God's hashgacha protects him. Acharashayim yikashlu v'yiplu b'ra'a achas levad. The Russia will fall just based on one ra'a because he doesn't have Hashem's protection. Yeah. So look, you could say that this is talking about hashgachas Hashem. I mean, that's a reality, right? But it's not satisfying in the sense that it doesn't give you a Mishlei idea, and it's even less satisfying because if this were talking to someone who could listen, then you could say like, oh, it's Mishlei advising him, and then the hashgachas Hashem is just the consequence. But again, why are we talking to the Russia?
Can you say that first part one more time?
That both the Rabag and the Ibn Ezra are saying that that the reason why the Tzadik gets up is Hashem saves him, or Hashem helps him get up, and that's true. But it's not satisfying to me because I'm looking for a Mishleic idea. And the Mishleic idea is going to come from one of two places. Either something in decision-making, which saying, okay, you got Hashgachas Hashem is not going to really help you in decision-making. Right. And especially even the Tzadik doesn't rely on Hashem. He doesn't rely on a miracle, Right. And then if this were talking to the audience and just saying that God saving the Tzadik is like something that he should factor in, that'd be great. But this is not an audience member that really listens to the rebuke.
It's a good question. Does the Rabag and who?
And the Ibn Ezra.
So the Rabag and Ibn Ezra, do they usually talk about Hashgacha?
Rabag does. Ibn Ezra I don't know well enough. Yeah.
So the Rabag if he, the reason why I'm asking is because if he does usually talk about Hashgacha, then like...
No, that's good for him. It's totally good for him. It's just not good for me. Yeah, I want to learn Mishlei according to my...
So are you trying to find an answer within the Rabag?
That's one answer I want to look for is there an idea within the Rabag that I can get, or do I have to abandon him? And then the other is there another approach? Yeah.
So do these Mepharshim have a different idea of what's Mishlei?
Yeah, Rabag really holds that Mishlei is about total perfection, and therefore he extends it into two areas that we typically don't do. One is specific instructions about methodology and thinking, which we sometimes see in the מאירי, but in the מאירי it's more about how you relate to learning, not like specifically how you go about training your mind. And then he also talks about Hashgacha in the same way that we learned Tehillim to talk about Hashgacha. Yeah.
I mean, I have it on Ross's answer.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, like, it's dumb. It's really dumb.
Okay, that's fine.
But I mean, like, what does it really mean to have Hashem, save you?
Yeah.
Within the Mishlei world, right?
Right. Right.
Like it just means that you're a tzaddik in line with the God's system.
Okay, I don't think that's Amaretz. I don't think that's Dafuk. I mean, that is what it means in Mishlei. Again, the pasuk I always
So the Bible and the Rabbi just say that in simple terms.
No, I mean, look. I know I've quoted this many times, but...
And the reason why I'm saying is Dafuk is because it's a very common answer. It's like,
well, for us it's common, yeah, but I think to other people would be revolutionary. Is this?
Maybe my standards are just much higher now.
Yeah, maybe. All right, that's an old file. It's a Dafka file. Okay, I'll just have to go to my my blog. Oh my goodness. Oh, I forgot to do the thing. Okay, hold on just a second. I got to do my. Let me pause this. Got to do my. Okay, so Ariel's answer, my favorite raya for Ariel's answer that it's a legitimate approach is in Mishlei 10:3. Hashem will not starve the soul of a tzaddik, but the destructiveness of the wicked will batter them. And that would seem to be that God will care for the tzaddik and make sure that he gets enough food. But the Meiri says, I'll just read what I wrote here. The Meiri takes a different approach. He interprets the pasuk in an entirely naturalistic manner. According to the Meiri, the subject of the pasuk is the difference between the eating habits of tzaddikim and rashaim. He explains that the tzaddik eats in moderation based on his physical and psychological needs. Consequently, his chomer, his material body and psyche, will be more receptive to the development of his tzura, of his intellect. In contrast, the rasha eats in quantities which are either excessive or insufficient. This leads to a physical and psychological imbalance, which in turn has a detrimental effect not only on his intellectual development, but on his capacity for psychological satisfaction. Upon seeing the Meiri's naturalistic interpretation, one might object, saying, then what does the pasuk mean when it says Hashem will not starve the soul of the tzaddik? Doesn't this imply hashgacha pratis, that Hashem intervenes to prevent the tzaddik from starving? The Meiri answers this question in his commentary, quote, this matter is ascribed to Hashem, for all things that come about through nature are ascribed to him, blessed is he. It is as if the pasuk said that tzaddik will not be in a state of starvation, and Russia will be the opposite, and will never be satisfied. As it is stated, the belly of the wicked will lack. So in Mishlei especially, but even in Tanakh, like in the rest of Tanakh, then acts of Hashem, things that are natural consequences of aligning yourself with the derech Hashem are ascribed to Hashem as if Hashem directly is doing them. So I did find one approach, so that's what Ariel is saying. I did find one approach that seems to say something like that, which is the gra.
The gra.
The gra, yeah. So, I have to pull out all the stops when I have to go, not that the gra is bad, but that I don't usually, he's not one of my go-to mafarshim. So
he's good.
Yeah, I mean, people love the gra and Mishlei. I found, just to recap my shita on the gra, which is not an informed shita, I found two types of pirushim that he gives. One is the type where he's saying the pasuk says three things. This one refers to Torah Shmitzad. This one refers to Torah Balpeh. This one refers to Talmud. Like an approach that is about Torah and mitzvos that is just not everyday decision making. And then the other category of explanations is really good pshat. Okay, that's pshat like the way we learn it. So let's read what he says here. He says, Al Ta'ar of Russia L'Nevei Tzadik. Oh, also, if anyone ever finds a pirush of the Gra online that is legible, let me know. I don't think Sfaria has it, and Al Ta'ar definitely doesn't have it.
On Mishlei specifically?
On Mishlei specifically, yeah. Ki harasha tzofet l'tzadik umavaksh l'hamisel. The Russia, looks towards the tzaddik and wants to kill him. U'kamosh kasuv itel kolpina terov. Like it says about I think that's about the Isha Zona, she lurks at every corner in ambush. Shim yazov ma'at min Torah hu chotvo. As soon as he abandons a little bit of Torah, then the Russia seizes him. L'chein amar al terov Russia l'nevei tzadik. Therefore it says, do not ambush Russia for the abode of the tzaddik. Okay, so I don't know why he's talking to the Russia yet. Rivto means like a temporary dwelling. Unevehu ikar dirasa. Neve is a permanent dwelling. Kumusha bebehema makom rivtza, the place where it is crouching or squatting. Hu basade, that's in the field. Uneve shalahu badir, but the abode is in the dwelling. V'zeh amar sha'al ta'arov b'nevei tzadik shuhu b'olam haba. Shisham ikar dirasa. Okay, so that might be different than the way we take it. He says the Nevei Tzadik is Olam Haba, which is the main place where he dwells. V'sham hu diras nefesh ruach neshama. That's where the Tzaddik's soul is. Bal tashadid rivto b'olam hazeh, and don't plunder his revetz, which is in Olam hazeh. That's his temporary dwelling. Okay, fine. Alta rov Rasha l'nevei Tzadik hu b'veis hamidrash. Okay, this part again is not the way we. You see what I mean? He's like infusing this with like a Torah environment, not necessarily bad. So that's the base midrash. Al tashadid rivto hu b'veis hakneses. Who kamosh kasav matov ohalacha Yaakov mishkanasacha Yisrael v'amru ohalacha elu bate knesius mishkanasacha elu bate midrashos. Okay, but this is the part I wanted to get to. Kisheva yipol tzadik v'kam. The tzadik falls 7 times and gets up. Umusav alamala shamar al terov. That's going back to the previous pasuk. Ki, here's the line I wanted to get to. Ki afilu sheva pamim yipol tzadik echad levado. Even if the tzadik himself falls 7 times, ve'imishi azrehu, and no one can help him. So not like Isaac's interpretation or our interpretation last night. Yakum, nevertheless he will get up. Shehashem yisbarach yazrehu, sheyakim es atzmo. God will help him to lift himself up. Okay. Afilu harbe rishayim. Okay, and then rishayim, afilu harbe rishayim biyachad, even many rishayim together, mikomakom yukashlu bara echas. They will fall in one bad instance. Klomar sheyisharu bara v'yikashlu ba. They will remain in a state of badness and stumble in it. Bal yakumu lenetzach, without getting up forever. So this idea that God helps him to help himself is also very much in line with my favorite interpretation of Haba l'tayr Messiah Noso, which is in the Rambam in Hilchos Tשובה, Perek Shishi. I'm going to open this. Hold on. Still slow. Tשובה, Perek Shishi. So this is in the Rambam explaining the psukim that seem to indicate that God takes away Bechira. So he says, oh, I think I skipped it. Umahuzesh Amar David Tov Yashar Hashem Alkin Yorech Hatayim Badarach Yadrech Anavim B'Mishpat V'Yalamin Anavim Darko. What does David mean when he says Hashem is good and upright? Therefore, he instructs sinners on the way. He guides Anavim in justice, and he teaches Anavim his way. So that does imply a certain intervention on Hashem's part in terms of guiding Chatayim. So two answers. Zish sheshalach lahem nevim modim lahem darchei Hashem umachzirim osam b'tshuva. So one way that God guides Chatayim is that he sends Nevi'im to teach them the ways of Hashem and to bring them back into Teshuva. V'od shenasim hem koach lilmod ulavin. Furthermore, he gave them the ability to learn and to understand. Shemida zo b'chol adam. This capacity is in every person. The more a person is drawn into the ways of wisdom and righteousness, he desires them and pursues them. So that's what the Chachamim mean when they say that one who comes to be purified will be assisted. He will find himself assisted based on this natural capacity. So that's an idea also, that the way that the Tzadik lives, just following the derech of Tzedek is going to give him a natural forward momentum and resilience that if the Russia knocks him down, let's say like if the Russia, or the fool is on a certain derech and then they suffer failure, they will oftentimes abandon the whole thing because they'll say like, oh, I'm cursed, I'm doomed. Like if they're on a higher level, they'll say like, I'm wrong, and they'll be very affected by the results. But the tzaddik has conviction in the derech that he's taking that it's ultimately going to prevail. So he'll stick with it, even though he suffers failure. And so he'll be able to pick himself up. His mind will work to find other ways to achieve success if plan A fails. He'll make use of all the resources. He'll do tshuva. So all of these drachim of the tzaddik are ways that he's going to help himself. And that is Hashem helping him because that's the values that Hashem taught him. Okay, so let's go Ariel, then David, then Isaac. Yeah, Ariel?
Yeah, I just want to maybe add a little bit.
Yeah.
It's possible you touched upon it, but the question is like why? Meaning for the Russia specifically.
Yeah.
I get it for the for the tzaddik because he truly believes in the system.
Right.
That helps him get up. But a tzaddik, what about what? Meaning, why would he fall and not get back up?
You mean the Russia? Why would the Russia?
The Russia. Why would he fall and not get back up?
Right.
So my question is is it possible that even beforehand they didn't really believe in that system? They're just doing it because of other reasons. Versus if if something does bad happen, does that all shatter now and they
right.
recognize it?
Yeah.
What's the?
That's a good question. Yeah, we need to figure that out.
Yeah. That's
yeah. David.
Okay, I have a thought on how the Tzadik is going to be getting himself up and the Russia is going to be constantly stumbling, or at least he'll be stuck with that stumble. And I think this is different than what you're saying, in that I think the Tzadik just has a completely different value system of just what is the value in life than what the Russia has.
Yeah.
And when that happens, then if something bad, say he gets plundered or whatever it will be, it just doesn't matter. I'm thinking in a Yosher B'Seiter Elyon type of way, that it just doesn't matter to him. If that's the case, then he'll be able to pick himself back up. Versus if you were to actually feel that you have indeed gotten harmed, then I think there is some tendency to dwell in be all sunk down about the harm that you had.
Right.
Which sounds to me a little bit different than what I think we've been saying, is that just that Tzadik is better at getting himself back up. But I'm saying insofar as he has a completely different value system, that is, he'll be able to get up from anything else because it's just not a big deal to him then. Okay,
right. Okay, so let me just repeat that and make sure I got it. So David is suggesting, and I think this is different than what we're saying. David is suggesting that this is to be understood in the Tehillim type way. You quoted Yosher B'Seiter Elyon, V'afal tehu ki yada shemi, that God will save him because he knows my name. Is the idea that the Tzaddik's real value is Yedias Hashem and being Bocha B'Tov, and that he's going to be able to retain even if he suffers a material failure. Like Marcus Aurelius says in, you can tell me what it is, David, if you remember it, 5.3, I don't know, is the only thing that harms a person is that which makes him worse. And so if you suffer loss financially or your house or whatever, that doesn't make you a worse person. That doesn't actually affect who you are, what your nefesh is. It just affects your belongings. So that's not going to make him worse. But the Russia is totally invested in a value system where his success is measured by his success, his material success. So when something bad happens to him, it's like a real harm. And you're suggesting that might be enough to like cripple him and make him give up somehow. Yeah, I think that's a good approach. And so it's interesting that plugging this back into the way Yaakov wanted to read it yesterday, it's telling the Russia that like you Russia who think you can destroy the Tzadik by destroying his home, his estate, you're just projecting your own values onto the Tzadik. That's not going to do anything to him. I'll give you an extreme example of this, and I've quoted this before, that there is someone who I know, a shul rav I know, and I don't even know what the circumstances were because this was not my community, that he made a decision for the shul, and this big Russia in the community was trying to like intimidate him to like backtrack. And I heard this from someone on the inside who I trust, that the Russia actually went to the rabbi's house and started destroying his property, and then in anger, and then the guy left, and the Rav's wife said, "Aren't you going to call the cops?" And he said, "No, that's just going to escalate things," or something like that. And what is this Russia doing? This Russia is thinking like, "Oh, I can just intimidate the guy, and like I can like destroy his stuff, and that's going to like harm him." But no, this Rav held by Torah and by his values, and like, you're not going to change my values by destroying my stuff. Like, yeah, I don't want my stuff destroyed, but you're not harming me, And so the Russia is just like projecting his values. The Russia gets his way by intimidating people and by like dominating them. And so he thinks he could use that tactic on the Tzadik, and it's just not going to work. That's a good approach.
That's fine.
Yeah, Isaac, you had an approach?
Yeah, so I'd say it's tied to that.
Okay.
So I think, because the Tzadik, I'd say because his value system is something other than, is like something else.
Yeah.
He's able to see the system for what it is, and so he's able to respond to situations in line with what makes sense in the situation.
Right. Oh, you froze. Maybe you're going to
Whereas
speak.
the Russia is seeing everything through the lens of what do you say?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. So So the Russia is seeing everything through the lens of his own value system, and so he's gonna. So when things are working out for him, he's able to respond. So okay, well, can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Can you hear me now? Okay. So the Russia is seeing everything through the lens of his own value system. So it says
There's clearly a delay. Yeah. You know what, Isaac, maybe just type it into the chat and I'll read it. This is going to just be an infinite loop. Yeah.
Can I try one more time?
Sure.
Okay. The Russia is seeing everything through the lens of his own value system. And so so when things are working out, he'll respond properly. But when things aren't, he's gonna double down on what he feels is right.
Right.
Instead of responding properly to the situation. Like I've seen like I've read like dozens of stories of people quitting a job because of a terrible boss, and then the boss is like tries to like double down on making demands that they on them, even though they have no power over them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, okay. I think I got the main part of the example you were giving, even though you cut out. So let me just summarize that. So the Tzadik is characterized by systems-based thinking. So he's going to be aware of all the moving parts within the system that he's in. So if something shifts, he can adapt very quickly. So the resilience comes from being able to adapt and to be fluid and to make decisions, given his knowledge of the system. But the Russia is invested in the results and in the image of himself being powerful, and in him just like imposing his will on the people in the system, which is gonna really like cause him to neglect knowledge of the system. He might start off knowing the system in order to rise to power. Like Hitler had to know how to manipulate people in order to like rise to power. But once he's in a position of power, he's going to be drunk off of his own power. And if things don't go his way, he's going to double down. And that's what created the consequences in the first place. So that's where he's going to implode because he's completely oblivious as to how the system actually works. Yeah.
Just a quick question on with the boss for a second. I mean, like, you do have bosses who just like, they just can't control themselves. They're not like, I don't know if they're actually Rishonim. They're just.
I'm not saying, no one's saying all bosses are Rishonim.
No, I know, but like my question is like, I just want to unpack it a little bit. I'm not like challenging the idea. I'm just trying to understand.
Well, there's a difference between a fool and a Rasha, right? A fool just can't control himself when it comes to immediate pleasure. And a Rasha wants to impose his will on the system to create, purely to satisfy his own ego and power.
Yeah, so here's what I'm saying. So like, sometimes like I've been in meetings where like, like they are really into like the results, but like the way they go about the results is like, okay, I'm gonna yell at you, I'm gonna impose my will, but like, the results are the results. Versus like, but they're not like, like outside of that, they're not like Rishon. So how do you mean like?
Yeah, so that's not what this is talking about. Yeah. So, and just to say one more part of Isaac's idea is that same thing that I said for David's idea is that the Rasha is projecting his own values onto the Tzadik, and thinking, oh well, since I, part of him realizes, I guess, and not realizes, he can't think in this systems based way, and he also is attached to the image of success, and so he thinks if you could destroy that for the Tzadik, then he's going to destroy the Tzadik. That's just not how the Tzadik operates. Okay, let's pivot to we still didn't address why it's talking to the Rasha. Okay, let's pivot to the derech nistar approach, that this is talking to the internal Rasha and saying don't try to destroy the habitation of the Tzadik, and because the Tzadik can fall sometimes and get up, but the Rishaim will stumble in Ra. So the question here, this answers our question of why it's talking to the Rasha, because a real life Rasha is not going to listen, but the Yetzer Hara can listen. In fact, all of Mishlei is addressed, is speaking in the language of the Yetzer Hara, right? So that's the whole thing, is appealing to the psyche. So that's a thumbs up there. The question though is what exactly is pasuk 16 saying? So we know that there is a resilience to the Yetzer Tov, and Rebbe mentions, I think in the shiur, I think it's Tשוba 2, I think that one of the upsides of Chet, obviously you shouldn't do Chet, but one of the upsides is immediately after the Chet, you have a tremendous opportunity to see with your mind very clearly the consequences and the badness of your decision without being blinded by the fantasy that comes when you're being drawn into the hate. Like you've got that after the hate, you've got that moment of clarity where like, look what I've done, and like I can like see myself clearly. And the trick is to retain that for the next time you're tempted, but like so there is resilience in the ability to like analyze what happened and to like take a lesson for the future. But what does it mean? Rishaim mikash l'bara? We said yesterday the difficulty in this shot is that Rishaim is plural, so who are these Rishaim? You don't have multiple Yetzer Haras.
Well, if we're taking the derech nistar approach, maybe you could say that the Rishaim are like all the desires that you have.
Okay, so that we did take that approach last night, which is last night talked about Hamad Rasha lebeis Ra'im, that the Rasha yearns for the house of the Ra'im, and the Meiri last night said that he didn't say what the Rasha was referring to, but he said the beis Ra'im refers to the body, because the body has lots of faculties, each of which has its own desires. Like there's the appetitive faculty and like, for food, and then there's like the sexual drive, and then there's greed and all this other stuff. So maybe the Rishaim are all of the individual desires that you have, and they're going to stumble in bad. So what's the idea though? I mean, stumbling in bad is all of Mishlei, right? Is that you give into these short-sighted desires and you're going to get consequences.
What was the opposite idea?
What was what?
What was the opposite with the Tzadik within this line?
Within this, the Tzadik is the Yetzer Tov. Yeah.
I saw in Rabbin recently about a Lashon Rabbin.
Yeah.
Said that the Rabbin indicates that each and every one of these,
yeah,
the thing applies to.
Right. That's good. Yeah, that's good. Yes. What is the abode of the Tzadik? I mean, if we're talking about the person, then the abode of the Tzadik would be the. Oh, didn't Meiri say this today in our pasuk, that the abode of the Tzadik is the goof? Or am I still mixing it up with last night? Meiri says derech nistar. Where are we? Oh, that's the Ezra. Meiri says, Derek Nistar, Kara Mel Hazakin in Russia, but he yelled at Miskin Tzadik, Amr Kishav Yipol Klomer, Im Lifamim Yipol Brishto, Lefikach Tzadik Yakum. But we didn't know what Lefikach meant.
What is the abode of the Tzadik?
Yeah, I mean, the abode of the Tzadik is the body, right? I mean, we are not malachim where we're pure intelligences functioning outside of the body. We are intelligences functioning within a body.
I thought it's not the intellect.
I have any. Maybe.
Well, the Tzadik is the intellect, but the abode of the Tzadik can't also be the intellect. Yeah, Isaac.
Maybe one type of example of this is the Yetzer Hara getting a person to stay up really late. Even though it's gonna,
that's a good example.
Wreck the person's learning the next day.
Right. So in other words, the tzaddik can be a tzaddik without his house, but he needs his house to function. Like he needs to sleep, right? He needs his house to function. So the Yetzer Hara will sometimes impair the tzaddik, not by attacking him directly, but by attacking the abode, by attacking the body. And it's saying, okay, good. So I like that as 15. Now can we unify 15 and 16? Yeah, Yaakov?
Not answering this, but is this approach kind of assuming that the Yetzer, wants to completely knock on the side and he actually expects that to be possible?
So what I would say, actually, I'm tempted to say kind of like David did, is that the Russia wants to utilize the tzaddik's resources for its own agenda. Like he wants to plunder the tzaddik, and the Yetzer Hara wants to use the body to satisfy its own pleasures, not to use it as a basis for fueling like seeking knowledge.
But it does think you could like permanently.
I think so. I think so. I think it feels that way. Yeah.
Maybe to help Isaac out with the unification, maybe if you do harm the abode of the tzaddik, or like you stay up all night or whatever.
Yeah.
But maybe within the tzaddik world, like you'll have systems in place to like help you.
Right. So that's a good. Okay. So just to repeat my derech of the derech nistar is you take the same idea that you were applying to the nigleh and you apply it to a different subject matter. So what Isaac was saying in the derech nigleh is that the tzaddik has systems-based thinking and therefore he'll be able to adapt. Right, the resilience comes from his adaptiveness. So too, the intellect can find ways to adapt when the body is impaired by the Yetzer Hara, and therefore the Yetzer Hara is not going to succeed in permanently, ruining the tzaddik. That's good. That's good straight interpretation. Yeah. Okay. I still am not satisfied with in the nigleh talking to the Russia. I still want to understand that why the Mishlei here is talking to the Russia. Again, I think the most fruitful approach is it's not really talking to the Russias, it's talking to the son and telling him to not be tempted by what you see the Rishaim doing and not to be deterred by the fact that the Rishaim will sometimes succeed in destroying the tzaddiks like a state. And so in other words, this is like an example of lates take upese yarim, that you strike the lates, but the pesi becomes smart. So here it's talking to the Russia so that the nar can hear.
Yeah.
I think that's a more fruitful approach. Yeah.
Just to answer the question.
Yeah.
I understand it is addressing a consequence to Russia, but it's really vague. I
Yeah.
wouldn't expect the Russia who's not on board with the Mishlei ideas is going to see this.
Correct.
And,
Yeah.
Okay. I want to harm myself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think that's why I think talking to the son is the best approach.
Yeah, I think that's
And that encompasses all the ideas we've said. It encompasses the idea of from last night of the community coming together to help the tzaddik. It encompasses the idea. David, what was your idea again?
Mine was just
values.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Is that that by taking values in the non-physical, then physical failures are not going to deter you in the same way whereas the Russias are, and then it has Isaac's approach of the system's resilience. Okay, all right.
Yeah, it's almost like Shlomo was like, all right, let's role play right now. You're the Russia.
Yeah.
All right, you Russia.
Right.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
like how I'm saying it.
Okay, very good. All right, this did come together. All right, have a good day, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.